Hey everybody, John Franklin Reviewer, and thank you for joining me in part 2 of ranking the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th movie. Now, the first video was the bottom 10, now we're in the top 10. I also mentioned Happy Halloween to anybody who was actually watching this the very first day. Number 10 is going to be A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. Now, I love Freddy in this here. I love his humor. I love the deaths in this movie. I love the cast, the acting as well from everybody. But on the other side, the way that Freddy is resurrected, I'm not going to say it in this video, but it's got to be one of the most stupidest things I've seen, a way that a villain gets resurrected on screen. And then since I already kind of gave it away on a spoiler here about Alice does make it to part 5, her fight between herself and Freddy is a little too short for me. Number 9 is going to be Jason X. I really like Ronan. She's a really badass character. She's just very fun. Love Ken Halter once again as Jason / Uber Jason, or some people might call him Terminator Jason. And yes, out of all the Ken Halters, this is my favorite, the one in space. Go ahead, sue me. And the whole space stuff does not bother me one bit. I'm fine with that. I love the rest of the cast, or most of them. I love the deaths in this here. But on the other side, Professor Lowe, I cannot stand this guy. Just one of the most dumbest characters in horror history. I definitely don't like the CGI in this. I mean, yeah, anything you're going to do space, it's going to be CGI. And of course, for this being a really low budget movie, you get what you pay for. And I'd say maybe like the last 2 minutes of this movie, I despise. Number 8 is Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. I love Reggie in this. He's a kid actor. He does a damn good job. Sometimes I think he does a lot better than some of the adults. I like Ethel, who is our hillbilly. She's funny when she needs to be. I definitely like the unique deaths in this. I definitely like the killer reveal. It used to bother me, but not as much. But on the flip side, I'm not a big fan of Tommy in this one. I feel like in the middle chapter, he's very dull. He hardly really talks in this movie. There's another character named Pam. She's not that interesting, especially when we get into Act 3. She's constantly screaming. Between 1 to 10, that volume's up to a fucking 20. And the whole thing about how the killing spree gets started, all I could say is, really? That's the way you put it. Number 7 is Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D. Like is actually Chris. I think that she's just a fun character to watch. Her acting is great. She has to go through a lot of different emotions in this movie, especially the end of Act 2 into Act 3. Richard Brooker as Jason, I think he does such a great job as Jason. Still human Jason, but I love the makeup did to him in this one, even a little bit better than in Part 2 with Steve Dash. It's definitely a very suspenseful Act 3, one of the better suspenseful Act 3s from this franchise, I think. The rest of the cast is okay. The acting is actually okay. And on the flip side, I don't like a character named Shelly. He's the jokester. He's almost as annoying as Ted. Almost. There's another character named Rick. He's nothing but the horn dog for our main character. And the deaths in this has got to be one of the weakest in this franchise. And moving on to number 6 is Freddy's Dead. I know a lot of people hate this movie. I have fun with this movie ever since I was a kid. I've always enjoyed this movie more than a lot of the Freddys. And maybe it was because it was the humor. Yes, this is pretty much a full-blown out comedy, not scary at all. It doesn't bother me. I think Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger does a damn good job. I definitely love the characters in here. I know there's this one character, Carlos. I love his one line in here. The map says we're fucked. You've seen the movie, you get it. If you haven't, I'd really recommend checking out this movie. I love the deaths in this. But on the flip side, there are some cameos. I'll say except one. I'm not going to say who it is. The rest of the cameos didn't need to actually be in this movie. And I hate when movies, they try to make you feel sorry for the villain. Don't do that. Don't ever do that in your movie. Always bring down my experience just a little bit because you want me to feel sorry for this particular character, which I will not for someone who kills children. Number 5 is Freddy versus Jason. Now, this is the last time Robert Englund plays Freddy, so we'll go with him. I love his humor. He's still very scary. He has that mixture just like in Part 3. I love the battle between him and Jason. It's bloody as hell. I've always loved the first battle, the dream battle over the real life battle. I like a character named Lori. I think she's very cool. I think she's really good with her acting. A lot of people in this, their acting is really good. Kelly Rowland is another character that I really like. She actually does a terrific job, and I don't know why people give her a lot of shit. But on the other side, Jason. I used to think Jason was really good in this. I don't like the way he walks. He's kind of Frankenstein's monster meets a robot. The movie is not that scary. I mean, Freddy still has his moments, but overall, this is more of like an action movie, which is actually really cool. Do not like Will, which is Laurie's boyfriend. I mean, I used to think his acting was okay, but it just seems like every time I watch it now, it gets worse and worse. And same thing with another character named Linderman, who's just kind of like the geek of the group. And number 4 might be another surprise. The original Nightmare on Elm Street. I love this movie. Wes Craven did a good job directing it. I love the story. I love the script. Heather Langenkamp as Nancy is really cool. I love her acting. She has to go a little emotional here and there, and she does a good job with her acting. Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. He's damn good. He's still scary after almost 40 years. Love the makeup on him. Johnny Depp's very first movie, which is really awesome to see that. I love the deaths. But on the flip side, I'm not a big fan of Nancy's mother. I swear that she's just sleepwalking through all her scenes, all her lines, so it kind of brings the movie down a little bit for me. When we get to Act 3, most of it is really good, but I got 2 problems with it. One thing is Freddy ends up being pulled into the real world. Nancy has some traps set for him, and it kind of gives you Three Stooges meets Home Alone. I know this movie came out like 6-7 years before the original Home Alone, but still it had that kind of feel to it. And like the last like 2-3 minutes is open ending that they didn't even actually have to have and still make a franchise out of this movie. Number 3 is Friday the 13th Part 6. Let's start with the negatives on this one. I don't like the sheriff's deputy. Just not really a fan of him. I think he's just kind of annoying sometimes. I mean, he does a good job with his acting. I just personally don't actually like him. There's a couple that's in like a couple scenes who get killed by Jason, and it just felt like it was just like a little bit of a filler to just have a couple more people get killed. But on the other side, I love Tommy in this. He is damn good. Definitely like him better than in Part 5. He's not that dull. Megan, I think, is a great job. She's funny. She can be scared when she needs to be. She has a lot of a range of emotions when it comes to acting, almost as much as Nancy in the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Sheriff, Megan's father, he's damn good. I love his acting. Sometimes I think he was too good for this movie, even though I love the hell out of this movie. Love the deaths in this. It's very funny when it really needs to be. It's self-aware. I also love the soundtrack. It's all Alice Cooper, and I think that's awesome too. And number 2 is going to be A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. I love the hell out of this cast. Their acting is all good. Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger once again. Love his makeup still in this one here too. I love that he's still very scary, but he's still also very humorous with his one-liners. Everybody already knows that line. Welcome to prime time, bitch. Love the practical effects. Love the death. I love the story. Love the direction. This is just a really awesome sequel. But on the flip side, and I'll try not to get into too much detail, but one thing that has always bothered me is there's always a scene with Kincaid and Philip, who are actually roommates, and Philip sleepwalks. Well, Freddy, of course, knows about this, and he finds a way to get Philip out of the room, and Kincaid could have found some way to save his life, and unfortunately that's not how it actually went. And then the other thing is actually with a character named Joey, who something happens in Act 3 that it's like, we didn't expect any of this to actually happen. And this character was this for the first 2 acts. You do this in Act 3. Just felt like it almost was kind of out of nowhere. And number 1 is going to be Friday the 13th Part 2. I love the hell out of this movie. I love Ginny. Love her character. Crazy Ralph is back in this one, which I'm a sucker for Crazy Ralph. I like him in these first 2 movies. I definitely enjoy a lot of the deaths. There's definitely a couple surprise deaths. Sackhead Jason never bothers me. Steve Dash does a damn good job as Jason. It's really a fun movie. Love the story. Love the direction by Steve Miner. Everything about this movie is really good. Really, my only problem I have with this movie is the ending. Like the last minute or 2 of this movie, something happens, or at least we think something happens to a particular character, and they never explain it. They never explain it in Part 3, which is actually the same director. I always get a little rattled when I get to that last minute or 2 where, oh, I love this movie, it's so good. Oh, look what they did. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for checking out this second part of my ranking video. I will see you guys in the next one. Have yourselves a good one. Bye.